And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting Australian Indian Radio's daily Facebook Live updates. And it's wonderful to have your company once again. And it's a beautiful day out there. A little bit shady, but that's good. It's not bad. It's looking like a beautiful Brisbane day. And today we've got so much to talk about. There's so much happening out there as well. But, so good to see you. So how's your Friday been so far? It's a wonderful day. Yes, it will be wonderful today. So let's have a look at the weather forecast for a little bit before we go into the news. So the forecast for rest of today is maximum of 23 and possible morning shower. Yes, we had a few scattered ones in different areas. Possible rainfall would be from 0 to 0.4 millimeters. And chance of rain is 40%, as I said before. And Brisbane area will be partly cloudy with the chance of rain. That was in the morning. Light winds, which will become east to northeasterly, 15 to about 20 kilometers per hour in the early afternoon, then becoming light in the late afternoon. So that's your forecast. And hey, what's happening out there today? As we know, the restrictions are going to ease and our borders are going to be open today. And in opening up with the borders, there's so much that will be happening. We got the latest video of the border coming with the Premier, but we unfortunately didn't have time to bring it onto the show right at this point in time. So the Premier is at the border and she said that the border will be open, but not to Victorians. Sorry, Victorians, no, not open to you at all. And she is saying that because there will be a big rush, and if you are planning to get in, maybe delay it for another day or something rather than being stuck in the long queue. And we know what those queues can be like as we have done before. I remember once when we went to Sydney, coming back, we were stuck there for ages getting through. There was another reason for it at that time. But, the advice from the Premier is that if you can hold it off, please hold it off, because there will be a long queue. There will be checks happening in there. And people are saying there will be a stampede of people trying to come into Queensland as the borders open today from noon. So we will look at all those news later on as we move along. But right now, we're going to look at the number of coronavirus cases. So in Queensland, the confirmed cases still remains at 1,068, recovery at 1,057. And the confirmed death is 6 in Queensland. In Australia, 9,059 cases with recovery of 7,575 and the death at 106. Worldwide, this number is growing on a daily basis, and it's a little bit worrying situation there. 12.1 million and 6.6 million recovery, 550k deaths. So that's a lot. There's a big numbers there as well. So as of today, what can we do here in Queensland? What's happening? What's opening and what's closed? To slow the spread of novel coronavirus, the Queensland government is tightening its borders. So from today, 10 July, anyone can enter Queensland unless they have been in a COVID-19 hotspot in the last 14 days or unless you are from Victoria. The tightening of the restrictions means people who have been in COVID-19 hotspot in the 14 days will no longer be able to quarantine in Queensland, and they will be turned away at the border. And this is what I have been saying all while should have happened in the first place. This applies to anyone who has been in COVID-19 hotspot in the past 14 days, except people needed in Queensland for essential purposes. Queensland residents who have been in COVID-19 hotspot can return home but will be required to quarantine in government-provided accommodation at their expense. Now, here's another difference, because before no one worried about coming and going in the quarantine because that was going to be paid by the government. All COVID-19 hotspots are located in Victoria, and currently the whole state of Victoria is a hotspot. So there's no exclusion in Victoria. The whole of Victoria, as far as Queensland is concerned, is treated as a hotspot. COVID-19 hotspots are updated regularly. You can check the Queensland government website. So you will have to complete a Queensland border declaration pass before you come to Queensland. This will include agreeing to get tested for COVID-19 if you develop any symptoms within 14 days of arriving in Queensland. You will have to quarantine when you enter if you have been overseas in the 14 days, you have been in contact with someone who has COVID-19 in the last 14 days, you have been in a COVID-19 hotspot. As we know, whole of Victoria is now a hotspot. If you have COVID-19 or had COVID-19 in the last 14 days, if you had COVID-19 symptoms in the last 14 days, you are only allowed to enter Queensland if you have been in a hotspot in the last 14 days. If your usual residence is Queensland, you will need to comply with an order to attend a court or tribunal or give effect to orders of the court or tribunal. If you have to fulfill a legal obligation relating to, say, parenting or child access, you have to assist with or participate in a state or Commonwealth government law and enforcement investigation and other action at the request or direction of state government or any department of law enforcement agency. Or you need to come to Queensland to complete any essential activity which is highlighted, because what is essential activity? Look at the definition in this context. Or if you have to arrive into Queensland by air and you transfer directly to another flight to leave Queensland and don't have to leave the airport or quarantine until your flight is out of Queensland. Or you are in a COVID-19 spot for the sole purpose of transiting through an airport and didn't leave that airport. Or if you are a student at a higher education institution or boarding school, along with a parent or guardian accompanying a minor and are entering Queensland for study. So there you go, students have got a bit of an exemption there. So these are the measures that have been put in place, and there's a little bit more. There's quite a detailed information that keeps going on there. See, the thing is, all this need to be put in place so that our borders are protected. Look, the easing has begun, but what will it mean for us in the long term? Because if it's not handled properly, we will go into the same situation as Victoria, and everyone's the economic recovery will then be delayed. Everyone's businesses which have sort of slowly started coming back to life. People are entering the coffee shops as well, rather than having to stand on the streets. All those will again close, and we'll have to go back to those strict restrictions once again. So the onus is on us to make sure that we, as responsible citizens, do the right thing also, and that will be good. But right now, for a slightly different town, let's look at what's been planned for the economic recovery right here for Queensland.
Contain the spread of COVID-19 and to respond to its impacts. For months, we've been delivering our plan to help Queenslanders and our state's economy recover from COVID-19. Today, I'm announcing some of the further measures we will take to support and strengthen our economy as we unite and recover for Queensland jobs. Now, some of you may not recognise these, but these are Australian $1 bills, and they came from the first pay packet I ever received on the 18th of December 1982. Now, I've kept those dollars because they remind me of the importance of work and the value of each and every dollar. And now that I'm the Treasurer of Queensland, I understand how important every dollar is to every Queenslander, to every Queensland family, and how important it is that we use other people's money in government as effectively as possible. We all know the global turmoil that COVID-19 has caused and continues to cause. We only need to look at our fellow Australians in Victoria and to see what they're facing to know that the threat COVID poses has to be managed, but can never be ignored. The first step to repair the economy is to keep the virus contained so we can open up. That's what we've done in Queensland through the strong and effective management of state borders. With so many Queenslanders facing economic hardship because of the impact of COVID-19, we know that we have to make every dollar count. In this time of unparalleled levels of support from all levels of government, we have a solemn obligation to ensure that every dollar of Queensland taxpayers' money works as hard as possible and is not wasted. Every taxpayer dollar is precious and every taxpayer dollar is powerful. Right now, with the world in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression, every taxpayer dollar has a greater capacity to help Queenslanders than it has ever before. Interest rates are at historic lows. It's now up to the federal and state governments to provide the economic support to keep as many people as we can from falling into a cycle of damaging long-term intergenerational unemployment. To achieve this, our effort must be focused on saving as many jobs as possible and supporting as many new jobs as possible, and to stop spending on things that aren't a necessity. In this difficult economic environment, all decisions will be guided by these key priorities: creating jobs, building essential infrastructure, and delivering frontline services. This is above politics because we are all in this together as Queenslanders. As Treasurer, I'm committed to ensuring the government identifies savings where we can, eliminates waste where it can be found, drives efficiency in the delivery of government services, and invests in programs and projects that create jobs and build the capacity of our economy, particularly capital works and infrastructure. 80 years ago, the Story Bridge was opened, and we celebrate that this week. Built by thousands of Queenslanders, it continues to serve hundreds of thousands of Queenslanders each and every day. We need the same focus on job creation as we had in those bleak days of the Great Depression. The package of measures I'm announcing today aims to drive the taxpayer's dollar further by delivering savings within the public service that can be redirected to supporting jobs and frontline services, and by restraining the debt burden. There is simply no option to cut our way out of this. Queenslanders remember what happened when Campbell Newman and the LNP tried to cut their way out of the post-GFC period and the long-lasting damage that caused to our economy. Put simply, the best way to fix the budget is to fix the economy. Now, while the government has implemented a 12-month wage freeze, we will now take further action to find savings. This is about measured and responsible budget management. We will ensure that the number of non-frontline public servants in Queensland is maintained at current levels. Growth in numbers will only be in line with the principles and priorities around jobs and frontline service delivery that I have outlined today. For any non-frontline vacancies that occur in departments, they will have to recruit internally. Our focus will be on the front line. At the moment, we also have nurses, teachers and other frontline staff seconded into corporate offices. That must stop. If you're paid as a nurse, we want you to work as a nurse, looking after patients. To reduce the number of highly paid senior public servants, some roles will not be filled when they are vacated, as we reduce the number of senior executive service positions. We will also put a cap on the number of public servants working from 1 William Street and other Brisbane CBD offices. Roles will not be seconded into the Brisbane CBD. COVID has forced all of us to examine how and where we work with a fresh set of eyes, aware at all times of the need to maintain physical distancing while at work and when travelling to and from work. We will...
And there you are, the Unite and Recover, the new plan for Queensland, and it's quite a comprehensive plan. Please do go on the web and download that full document to have a look at through. And the minister has pointed out that he does not want or the government would not like to see the mistakes of the past being repeated. So mistakes are mistakes if you are learning by that, but if you make the same mistake again, what do you call it? So there's the wonderful plan that's being put in place, and Carl, who was interviewing the Premier this morning at the border, asked one question as, when and how are you going to get the state out of the debts? So, her answer was that each and every state has that same predicament. Health comes first, so money will have to be found from other places to make sure that the health is and well-being of people are protected first and foremost. So budget adjustments will have to be made, but the health cannot be sacrificed and the well-being of the people. So many times you might have a budget in place, but no one had ever planned for a pandemic. So you have to adjust and adapt accordingly. So that's the way things are. But right now, a very quick message from our health department. As restrictions ease, more people are coming into Queensland as well. What do we need to do?
Well done, Queensland. Further restrictions have been eased. But as people participate in more activities, it's important that anyone with symptoms, no matter how mild, gets tested and stays home. Symptoms include fever, cough, sore throat, shortness of breath, loss of sense of smell, runny nose and fatigue. For further advice, contact your doctor or call 13Health. Queensland, we're in a great state, but now's not the time to let our guard down. So keep up your social distancing by staying 2 big steps away from others and avoid any unnecessary contact. For more information, visit the website.
Authorised by the Queensland Government, Brisbane.
And of course, yes, visit that website. And Dr. Janet Young, she has been very, very busy. Many people who didn't know about her, as during this COVID-19, everyone's got to know her very well. And a wonderful job that she's been doing as well, out there all the time with the Premier, all those advices, and some very, very tough decisions that she had to make, and many a times on the spot decisions that have to be made. So, it's good to see the whole work and the team working together. Talking about the team, the National Cabinet is due to sit again. But right now, let's hear from our Prime Minister when he visits a family. And these young boys or the young family have found out a wonderful way to, during this COVID-19. Without telling you too much, let's have a listen from them.
The idea is all about thanking essential workers who have worked so hard to help keep us safe. Us 3 kids, we were watching a TV show about a little girl who was making face masks. During dinner we told Mum about it, and she challenged us to see what we could do in our community during COVID, and we came up with this idea.
Now we have over 500 daycares, preschools, schools and families that have joined in, and we have 30,000 thank you letters.
Now, isn't that wonderful that they have been able to do something great? It's so great that even the Prime Minister paid them a visit. Good work and effort does not go unnoticed, as we have seen there, and it is just so wonderful to see that happening. And today we were going to talk to Professor Yvonne Wells, who is a clinical psychologist, and we will talk to her in just a minute. Because during all this COVID-19, people of all different ages and, students, different cohorts, everyone has to face a lot of, dramatic disruptions to their lives. So social distancing and isolation measures what does it mean and how have the over 50s been coping with that? That's what we're going to talk to Dr. Jeanette Young about that. So social distancing and isolation measures have caused dramatic disruptions to Australians' everyday routines. New research reveals a large portion, which is 82.9% of Australians over 50, feel their families are making extra effort to stay connected and support them through these tough times. So despite the unsettling start of 2020, Australian seniors are proud to report that over 50s have adapted well and built resilience during these turbulent times. So, this group, Australian seniors, and they have done this research. And today, the nationwide social distancing and isolation measures have caused dramatic disruptions to Australians' everyday routine. So with that, we are going to welcome to the studio Professor Yvonne Wells. So Professor Yvonne Wells is a clinical psychologist. Professor Wells is a clinical psychologist by training, but has had a research career since completing her PhD in 1994. Her main research areas include transition into later life, healthy aging, community aged care services, and residential aged care. And she has a long-standing interest in caregiving, especially for people living with dementia. The Lincoln Center for Research of Aging conducts research and consultancy activities in these sort of areas. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we'd like to welcome to the studio Professor Yvonne Wells, a clinical psychologist. Welcome to this show, Professor Yvonne.
Thank you very much, Umesh.
Well, thank you, because as we know that this topic here today that we are discussing is very, very important, and as we know, many people within our community would probably fall within those, right? So, first of all, could you please just tell us a little bit about the research findings?
Thank you very much, Umesh. Yes, so the research was conducted by Australians. The most important reason that people identified was, as you said before, that their families had made extra efforts to stay connected and support them. And so people who responded to the survey really felt valued by their families and a sense of belonging, I think. So it helped them counter the sense of isolation and loneliness that they might otherwise have experienced. But the other thing is that these people who responded to the survey had shown quite a bit of resilience. They had adapted their lifestyles to maintain their physical and mental health as best they could. For example, by maintaining their exercise routines or starting new ones at home, or by engaging in hobbies such as cooking or other things they enjoyed doing. And, as I said before, staying in contact with family and friends. Seniors who were concerned about whether people aged 50 and over were doing well or not during the COVID lockdown and the early stages of the epidemic in Australia. So they conducted an online survey, and the results were really very encouraging. So, for example, a vast majority of the respondents, about 90%, said that they had adapted really surprisingly well to their new living situation.
Okay. And so
well,
now,
there are a number of reasons.
What sort of advice would you give
to
people with, whose mental health have been negatively impacted?
To stay connected and support them. And yes, so it's certainly true that some responded to the survey really felt valued by anxiety and worry in these troubling times. And the first thing is to recognise that this is quite normal. When your life has been turned sideways and none of the assumptions that you make are true anymore, then of course people are going to feel anxious and there's going to be an adjustment period that's required. But having said that, if people are finding that their level of anxiety is really affecting their well-being, then they should be thinking about doing something about it. And there are several things that they can do. So one is to look at the way they're thinking about this crisis. In Australia, yes, we should be concerned about the coronavirus epidemic. But in fact, if you're obeying the rules and keeping physically isolated and doing what the government's asked you to do, then your risk of acquiring the virus is really very low. And even if you did get it, we're backed up by a really world-class health system that will support us. So yes, it's right to feel concerned in these times, but we shouldn't be feeling paralysed by anxiety. The other things that people can do are to look after those aspects of their lives which support good mental health, especially keeping physically active and staying in contact as much as you can with your family and friends.
Staying connected with family and friends, as you said, is important. So, but could you please explain to all our listeners how important it is for people, to stay connected during these times?
It's really important because it's one of the things that we rely on to help us keep mentally healthy is being in contact with people that we know and love, our families and the people that support us in our everyday lives. Mm-hmm. So the thing about the respondents to this survey was that a large majority, 84%, already had the digital technology that they needed to stay in contact with their family and friends, and they relied on that. They relied on this technology to get information, to keep them entertained, and as I said before, to stay in contact with their families. So a lot of people use this digital technology to develop new kinds of ways of relating to their grandchildren, for example. So that it's really critical that people can find ways of staying in contact.
And staying with contact and people finding new ways. You are quite correct in saying that all the over 50s have adapted quite well, and there have been so many, Zoom meetings, Skype meetings between grandparents and grandkids. It's wonderful to see that sort of happening. Now, the Australian Seniors is doing a wonderful job, and all this information that you have provided here today is very, very valuable information as well. So where can people get more information?
If the listeners want to find out more about this study, they should go to the Australian Seniors website and look for a report called Australian Seniors Connectivity in the Age of COVID-19.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you can find those details. And if you need further information, you can contact our office and we'll pass on the full details. If you're over 50 and you're looking for an active lifestyle or just need some advice, which is available to everyone, we can do that for you. So, Professor Yvonne, thank you so much for sharing that valuable information with all of our listeners. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It's been a pleasure, Umesh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, and it's wonderful to see that there are people out there doing so much for this cause. As we have said before, that a large majority, meaning 84%, did not have to invest initial technology to stay connected. And many say they are relying on their technological devices to inform them and distract them. And more than ever, in addition, more than half, 52% of seniors are staying in touch with their families through video conferencing. So good on you, and well done to all our seniors who have adapted so well to this technology and by staying in touch and staying in contact with the kids and grandkids via this medium which is available to us. Right now, let's take a commercial break.
ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी 1989 से लेकर अब तक का विश्वसनीय और माननीय ब्रिस्बेन का रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। उषा चंद्रा, जो कि ग्लोबनेट की डायरेक्टर है, अपने ग्राहकों को ईमानदार और एथिक सर्विसेज देती हैं। अगर आप ब्रिस्बेन की प्रॉपर्टी में पूंजी लगाना चाहते हैं और आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी को प्रोफेशनली मैनेज किया जाए, तो आप आज ही कांटेक्ट कीजिए उषा चंद्रा को। लैंडलाइन नंबर है 38654466, और मोबाइल नंबर है 0419775416। और आप प्रॉपर्टी की अधिक जानकारी और करंट अपडेट्स के लिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे लॉगिन कर सकते हैं। हमारी वेबसाइट है www.globenetreality.com.au। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी आपका अपना लोकल रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। हमारा पता है ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, शॉप नंबर 5, 2281 सैंडगेट रोड, बुंदल, क्वींसलैंड। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, रियल एस्टेट इज अवर वर्ल्ड।
And real estate definitely is the well, but right now it's time to look at news in brief. And today we have got quite a lot to get through, but let's see how much time we have. So, back sweat becomes England's new post-COVID tactic for signing the ball. With Test cricket making its post-lockdown return, England's fast bowlers have devised a new tactic for signing the ball now, and use of saliva is banned. Wow. And as we know that Australians were pretty well known for the sandpaper or sand, but I wouldn't go there. But this is the new tactics that have been devised. Imported pets could be behind potentially deadly dog disease outbreak. A tick-borne bacterial disease that can be deadly to dogs has been detected for the first time in Australia, and the country's top vet believes that flaws in testing of imported pets is to be blamed. Here we go again. This is what we have been saying all while, that people coming in, anything that comes from overseas really needs to be tested well before they come into the country. So right now, Melbourne. So Melbourne Tower residents get a taste of freedom, and Queenslanders set to open the borders, as we discussed before, that Queensland's borders opening midday today. But as we have said before, that the Premier has mentioned that please take precaution. If you don't have to come today, don't, because there will be a long queue. So residents of Melbourne's public housing towers are allowed out, but one building remains locked as Queensland welcomes back interstate travellers while shutting doors to Victorians. Poor Victorians, you're not allowed in here yet. So, and then now what's happening is the photos. Maybe I should be sending in some photos to this one here as well. Selection of photos sent by audience members from around Australia. So, and IBC is carrying on this project on the Instagram, that if anyone needs, wants to send photos, they should do so there. Now, this next news is a bit of a worrying news coming out of Seoul. The mayor has been found dead after daughter reported him missing. After a search involving hundreds of police, the mayor's body found in Mount Bukak in North Seoul, near where his phone signal had last been detected. So, of course, this will be in news which is emerging. So we will keep an eye on that and bring to you the reports of how things go along in that front. New South Wales, 90 people in self-isolation after crossing closed borders, while New South Wales government amends public health orders. About 30,000 vehicles have crossed the border since it was closed on Wednesday, but most people have had exemptions from requirements to isolate, while New South Wales Health is amending public health orders to remove confusion. So, whenever any law, anything is introduced, there is always confusion. People will, try and make use of the provisions and use it to their advantage, and many a times not doing the right thing as they should. Well, right now, let's have a very quick look at upcoming events. So, online Hindu Dharma classes for children by Bala Sanskar Kendra, as it is a wonderful event happening there. BSK 8th Annual Cup, keep in touch with Rajarajan. And Gurdwara programs have begun once again. So, you're welcome to go back to the Gurdwara, or on Sunday have the langar. And the free food and grocery pickups is still happening. The Hindu helpline is always open there if you so wish to assist with that. And the Vedanta Centre of Sydney's Brisbane chapter, all the upcoming programs. Check out the online classes as well. Mental health issues, as we have mentioned in so many different of our interviews, that has been a highlight of our topics. And Sahyog Brisbane, a joint initiative of many of the community organizations out there. And support after suicide or family trauma is also available. Young Sikh Professional Network and the online CV checks, etc., are happening out there as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me for today. It's been wonderful having your company. And as we head into the weekend, you will have more people out there with the restrictions easing. And of course, Southerners are heading our way as well. So, we'll run into them as well. But once again, a word of caution is if you don't have to really be out there, don't. Please stay safe, stay with the family, always take precautionary measures. It is for the better. I know it might be hard at this point in time, but look at the longer picture. Look at things ahead, not right at this point in time as well. So a little bit of pain now will give you a lot of gain coming into the future there as well. And for all the people who are spending time with the family, do so with a great care. Once again, keep an eye on the kids and where they are. If you're going anywhere near the water safety is very, very important as well. And keep an eye on the kids at all times. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the weekend. I will be in touch with you tomorrow with the Weekend Classic. But until then, it's goodbye from me.